Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner, and today I am with Paul Garcia. He is the owner and operator of America's Best Defense up in Rhode Island, right?
The schools are actually in Massachusetts. I
Massachusetts.
live in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay, got it. And the cool part about him and his schools is his school does probably triple the amount of the average martial arts school, if not more than that. His best school does over 100K in revenue a month. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So if you're a martial arts school owner or you're just a business owner and you want to see how to grow your business, this is going to be great for you. So, Mr. Garcia, thank you so much for joining
Well,
us.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So obviously you're way ahead of most martial arts schools. Okay. Even our best schools in our organization do in the 70s. So
hmm
you're way ahead. So tell me a little bit more about like how you got to that point. Like, did you start off at 100K months in revenue or
Oh no.
no? Like,
Yeah.
how did you get there?
So how far back do you want to go? So we can go way back to when I first opened my school, and probably typical, like most. I was working a full-time job. Was married at a very young age. Had a daughter at a
How young we talking?
very young.
Were you
19.
9? Okay,
19.
19.
No, but
Damn. Okay.
it's
19.
not. I'm not saying this is an incentive.
Yeah.
I was 19, and my wife was 17 when we got married, and we're still married,
Wow.
and we're still married.
Were you religious then? Is that like
No,
no?
no,
Okay.
no. I joke around and say we were just practicing. I thought,
Yeah. Okay.
but she ended up getting pregnant, and we come from, both of us, very traditional families, so there was no question.
You're getting
My
married.
Yeah, we're getting married, no
Hmm.
question.
Were you scared shitless at the time?
My father, I thought he was going to kill me.
Hmm.
My father's a Marine Corps ex-military, and actually he was probably the greatest. How should I say it? Supporter.
Hmm.
He just very strongly felt that you're going to need to take care of her. Very traditional values,
Hmm.
which kind of steered us in the right direction. But it got to the point where I was working a full-time job, and I'm competing full-time. So it's just really weird because you have this dichotomy that you're competing and people are cheering your name and kids are asking you for their autograph and school owners asking you to come to their school and do seminars, and then you go to work and you just absolutely hate your job.
Hmm. What
you
were you
know,
doing?
Back then I actually worked in a factory. So I just felt that there was more for me. I knew I could do more. On top of that, when I was competing, there were certain people that I was competing with that were actually running schools. And I'm hearing these stories that they're running 300, 400 students. I come from a school that there was about 60-ish. We were a competition school, so we did a lot of competing, kickboxing, point fighting. And then to hear that these people are making a living teaching martial arts, to me that would be a dream come true.
Hmm.
And I had a very good friend who was on our team. His name was Cheech Luzzy, and he had a big school, 350 students, very successful. And I asked him, I said, "Do you think it's possible that you could teach me how to do this?" And he said, "Absolutely." So I started going to his school, just being a fly on the wall and just seeing it. And I loved it. This was a very high energy school. The students wanted to be there. It literally looked like a mini Tony Robbins seminar every 45 minutes. Like,
Hmm.
that's how crazy the energy was. And I was just attracted to it. He got me started. He started teaching me some of the basics. Later on, I joined a consulting company. They started filling in more of the details. I met mentors through that consulting company, and I just became a real student of the game. Like, I had both pain and pleasure working on. I had the pain of, I've got a family, I got to support a family, but I also had the pleasure of inspiration that these people who I was competing with, I looked at them as, if they can do it, I can do it, and they were willing to share. So there was really no excuse. And
Hmm.
that's really, and we're talking, this is the late 80s, early 90s.
So what I don't understand is you're come from a traditional family
Yes.
and you're now a really young dad.
Yes.
So how do you even get the courage to leave your factory job, which is probably a steady income, to go do martial arts
I
and open
think
up
I
your
think
own
it was the
business?
inspiration, the self-esteem of, I'm a competitor. I was one of the nation's top competitors, so I had a lot of confidence. I had a lot of confidence. I just knew I needed to know what to do. I had no question I could do it. I'm not afraid to work. I'm willing to work hard. Just show me what to do and I'll do it. So I had that and I grew up again with a family that My mother used to say all the time, listen, if they can do it, you can do it. If he can be a champion, you can be a champion. So that was always instilled in my head that if you can do it, I can do it. I just got to figure out how to do it.
So most martial arts school owners, at least some of the ones that I consult, will teach or do exactly the same thing that they were taught at their school, right? And your school that you were at had 60 students. It was a competitive school, but it wasn't necessarily, I'm sure, for that martial arts school owner, probably a good lifestyle for that
Right.
person, but maybe not like the money maker that some people want out of a business that they own and run.
Right.
So how did you think to even find help elsewhere and not just follow the system that your instructor
That's such a
did
good
with you?
question. I think that's such a thought provoking question that if anyone's out there, that's how you break the patterns of the past. Stephen Covey used to say, you don't have to keep reliving the scripts of your past. You can break them. And I think again, I just didn't want that lifestyle. My parents were not wealthy. We didn't grow up with a lot of money. I stayed my kids' vacations were Orlando, Disneyland every April. Like they go and stay at nice hotels. Like, you know what I mean? And we're quick to say, you do realize this is not how we grew up. My wife literally grew up on a farm. She was a farm girl. My parents didn't have a lot of money. So I'm seeing that background. And then I'm seeing this background, these really successful school owners having these nice vacations, having nice houses, having nice cars, willing to show you what they're doing. Why would you not want that?
Mm.
Yeah, so I was just inspired. Like, I want that. I don't want this. I want that.
Mm.
And I
So,
went after it.
so how long did it take you when you opened up your school? How old were you in your first school?
20.
20.
Couldn't
Okay.
even go get a beer.
Damn. Couldn't get a beer. And you're a dad.
Yeah, and I'm a dad.
And
And
you're a
I'm a
new
dad.
dad. So how
Yeah.
did you get the money to start your first school? How'd you get the
My
financing?
uncle, my uncle loaned me the money, $15,000
Mm.
to start my first school. And
Wow.
my coach on John Paul Mitchell team, Don Rodriguez, he negotiated my first lease because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I asked him to do it.
So you were just good at martial arts at the time and probably a good teacher.
And it depends. If I look back now, I would say probably my passion carried me
Mm.
because I just was very excited to be able to do, and I knew it was possible, and I just got to go get it.
Mm.
So I was very passionate, but probably as far as my skill of teaching, if I look back now, I probably wasn't that good of a teacher,
Mm.
but I just was very passionate, and I was willing to work hard.
I think anytime you look at yourself and reflect on what you said or did in the past, it's
Yeah,
always a little bit embarrassing.
yeah,
Even for me,
yeah,
if I look at a podcast of a year ago, I'm kind of like,
yeah,
yikes, right? But it's really not that bad.
yeah.
But you just see it in the lens of who you are now,
Right.
not who you were,
I
right?
have I have adults reach out to me on Facebook that were teenagers when I used to teach them when I first started teaching. And they'll tell me some of the stuff we were doing in class. Like, I'm not even sure you can legally do that anymore. I'm not, we did that.
Yeah. Like,
So
you're
yeah.
not consulting an attorney, are you? Because I'm glad there wasn't any video cameras, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you had your school and you opened it, how long did it take you to become quote unquote unsuccessful?
Inside of about a little over 2 years. Inside of about 2
What did
years.
that look like to you?
Well, you were conditioned from the consulting company that literally they would say your school's not on a map until you had 300 students. So my goal back then was I want 300 students. And with the exception of the guy that he was also in Rhode Island, but he was in South Rhode Island, just him and I, pretty much most of that area were the only people that had 300 students.
Wow.
So to me, that was success. To me, success was being able to have the freedom of a lifestyle of choice
Mm.
versus a lifestyle that you're forced to accept.
Mm.
I now get to choose where I want to live. I now get to choose what kind of car I want to drive.
And you chose Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, I was born there. So.
Now you're in Jersey, you're in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You might want to switch. I don't know. You see some nice farms in the way in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone told you, but we have really good Starbucks here.
Oh.
Yeah, the finest Starbucks
Amen to that.
around. So when did you get, because for anyone to get revenue that goes from 5 figures to 6 figures, like that's a big jump, right?
Yeah.
Most martial arts schools on average are going to bring in probably like 10K a month, right? We're talking about like the average in the
Right.
industry, but like a decent martial arts school is going to be between probably 20 and 40K a month, but 100K plus, which you guys are doing out of one location, no after school programs, it's not fluffed up by other things. It's
Mhm.
just martial arts. So
Yeah.
what do you think your secret sauce is?
I think that we continue. You and I discussed this earlier. That I think we're continually looking at things from our students' point of view, and that's how we choose what needs to be improved or made better. I joke with my staff all the time. I'm not married to anything. I will change anything and everything if I think it's going to benefit the student. I think our passion that we have all the business pieces in place, but our heart and our passion is, I believe, I said this at the seminar earlier, second to church. I believe the martial arts school is one of the most positive places a kid could go. I think, I was just talking to your brother about this. Um, we teach the type of etiquette that parents want. They want their kids to be more disciplined. They want to have respectful kids. They want these things, and most of society is working against them. And yet here we are teaching these things. I think that if you're able to do that at a very high level, you're able to do that passionately, I think you'd have to lock the doors to keep people out of your school.
Mm.
I think once you have that in place and you have that heart and that drive, you make the program attractive. It has to be, listen, as good as it is for a child, if it's not fun, then they're not gonna wanna be there.
Mm.
So I've gotta have all the cylinders working. I've gotta make it attractive. I've gotta make it fun. I gotta make it so they wanna be there. I gotta have people on deck that wanna be there, that wanna teach kids, that realize what we're trying to do. And then I gotta have a program that actually delivers on it,
Mm.
that they're experiencing those benefits every time they're there. And I think once you get that thing operating on all cylinders, it's like we discussed in the car, you get word of mouth working for you. You get parents telling other parents what you're actually teaching these kids. It's not just, and I'm not, and I know sometimes I've been doing this long enough. My background, I used to be a consultant, ran one of the country's largest consulting schools. So I hear the rhetoric, and that when we start talking about character development, naysayers will start, well, you don't care about the physical? Of course I care about the physical. But I've never had anybody come to me say, "Hey, I heard you teach the best roundhouse kicks in the area." They're coming to me for the benefits. And if you're not able to connect those dots for parents while they're in class, where they're seeing how this martial arts training is actually developing those benefits, then you're not operating at your full capability.
Mm.
But once you do, you will become known as the place. Like, word of mouth will spread like wildfire. We're in Attleboro Falls, Massachusetts. We're not in a metropolitan area. I'm not in, whatever, Sacramento, California or
Yeah, or downtown
Miami.
Boston or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in a small town and we have over 500 students. That's word of mouth. That's parents telling other parents, listen, this is what they teach. This is how they're helping my kid. Once you get that working for you, that's indicative of a lot of things that are happening. You're delivering on your promise. You're doing it in a very compelling way to the point where people are inspired to want to tell you the story to other people. And
So
you can do that. I'm not, I tell my staff all the time, I'm not actually a smart guy. I'm smart enough to
I'm
find
glad you
people.
finally said that out loud. Oh God.
I think I'm smart enough to find the people that have the answers and to just listen to them. Today, everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants to tell you their ideas. Everybody wants to. That's not what we did back in the day. What we did is when the guy walked in the room with 500 students, everyone shut up. Doesn't matter what I have to say. What do you have to say? You're the one with 500 students. And we just learned to model that way. We learned to just listen. And then, all right, that's what I've learned. I got to go back and implement this.
Yeah, it's interesting how I talk to a lot of martial arts
Yeah,
school owners through consulting as well.
yeah,
And the ones that don't do very well, they're the ones that talk about all the stuff they're doing. That's
yeah,
so great.
yeah,
The ones that are doing really well, I'm talking ones that are doing 60,
yeah,
70, 80K or at multiple locations. They're the ones that are talking about all of the problems that they have
yeah.
and like and ways to get better. And it's so funny the different mindset between the two. Even though the
Sure.
ones doing really, really well, they're talking about all the problems. The ones that are not doing well, talk about all the things they're doing great.
Right.
And I think that mindset you have of like, okay, I need to find a mentor to
Yeah,
help me
sure.
actually get there instead of just trying to figure it out on my own. You're obviously gonna fast track it. But I kind of want to pick and prod a little bit what you said. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So you said like, hey, you want to have vision, you want to have believe in your product, you want to have a good product, so you get word of mouth. But pragmatically, what are you actually doing in your school to make sure those things happen? Like, how do you get word of mouth?
I think that going back to just make sure. So let's give one practical example. We consider ourselves a black belt school. Okay, now what does that mean? That means that it is my goal to teach your child how to become a black belt, not just how to get one, but how to become one. So that process includes learning the curriculum, but that process also includes what is a black belt. Well, I think a black belt has discipline of mind and body. So I think a black belt has attitude control. They have learned to develop a positive attitude. They have learned to be self-disciplined. They have learned to be have perseverance, have indomitable spirit. They have learned this is their character. This is who they become. It's my job in the roadmap between white and black to teach your child those qualities, exercise those qualities through training in order to develop them. Because they're not developed if we talk about them. They're developed when they get exercise. So that's my job. How do I know? Now, everyone listening could be, well, we do the same thing. How do you know you're doing it? It's a simple test. Go ask your parents. Go ask 4 parents today. How would you describe our school? What kind of school would you describe us? If they don't say, well, you're a black belt school, they're not getting your message.
Mm.
Now you have to go back and go, why are they not getting our message? Are they not hearing it in class? Are they not seeing it on the walls? Are the kids not bringing home worksheets? This week we're working black belt quality. Here's the exercise. Why do they say, I'm a Kempo school? I'm a whatever school. You're a fun school. Why are they not saying I'm a black belt school? Somehow the message is not getting to them. That would be a problem.
So how do you think you get that message to
By
them?
they're constantly hearing it. They're constantly
Like bring it up in class,
Oh, absolutely.
emails.
If we have the message of the week, so every message is going to be based on a black belt quality. I will relate it to their training. See, for us, the training, and I'm not downplaying the physical. Obviously, I teach Krav Maga to my adults.
Yeah.
Physical martial arts is a
Yeah.
big part
And
of
you
what
were a
we do.
competitive fighter.
Correct,
right?
a competitive fighter. I understand the physical. My goal, though, is I feel that I can do more of a service to my community if I can get my kids to, well, think about this. Zig Ziglar said in Over the Top, going back to, I think it was the 80s, the top 300 CEOs in this country all had military backgrounds. So his point was, well, why is that? Well, what do you learn in the military that's going to help you in corporate America? And when I heard that, I go, that's martial arts. So I think our kids should be the best kids in school. I think our kids should be the most behaved kids in school. I think our kids should be the most contributors to society because we're supposed to be teaching those things. So the curriculum becomes a metaphor for teaching those qualities. That's the way I look at classes. Now, I'm not going to downplay the physical, excuse me, because if you downplay the physical, you're missing the opportunity. Hard work is one of the greatest methods for developing a kid's character. Perseverance. When do you develop perseverance? When things are going smooth? No, when things are hard. When do you develop indomitable spirit? When you get everything you want? No, when you fail. Now's our chance. And it's important to get the parents to understand that this is when we exercise it. And the more you're teaching those things in classes, the more your school starts to get the reputation as more educational than it is activity.
I think that's also how you separate yourself from baseball or soccer or swim.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you said that stood out to me is the benefit. What is the benefit of what you're doing? Not just the feature. And this is something that we try to teach new staff members consistently.
Right.
Is whenever you're selling anything, you can be selling vacations or cars or insurance. You don't talk about the feature of that thing. You talk about the benefit of that thing.
Yes.
So for instance, I'm going to sell you a car. I'm not going to say, hey, the car has, maybe 4-wheel drive and has double transmission. I don't know if that's even a thing. I'm not a car guy.
Yeah.
But leather seats or a moonroof or sunroof. You would talk about the benefits of those things. Your car is going to have 4-wheel drive so you can drive around your family safely,
right?
Especially when it's snowing.
Absolutely.
Your car is going to have leather seats so your wife is comfortable, your husband's comfortable in the passenger seat. And you talk about each thing about and why it's beneficial, why it's good for them.
Right.
So instead of just saying, oh, here's a kick, you talk about the benefit of knowing that kick. Like, hey, when you know how to do this kick, you'll know how to defend yourself. So that way, if someone tries to hurt you or your family, not that you just know how to do the kick, but you have the confidence to actually do it and defend yourself if you need to.
Absolutely.
And I think if we talk more about the benefits, and nobody likes going on vacation. When you go on vacation, and you see a commercial about flying to the Virgin Islands or something, they don't talk about, the packing your bags and like
Right.
all the work you gotta do before you leave and the horrible plane ride. They just show you drinking
A margarita.
yeah, margarita on the
Right. Yeah.
beach, right? That's it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you talk about the benefit of that, and like,
Right.
you're smiling on the beach and hanging out.
Right.
And I think we need to be better about talking about the benefits and not
Yeah.
just the features,
Yeah.
right? The feature is four-wheel drive, but the benefit of that is
Yeah.
being able to bring your family safely wherever you need to go.
Yeah. Absolutely. 1000%. Because if you think of, I don't know, people still do intros, but when we teach an intro, what are we doing? Well, there's
Well,
certain
can you explain
things.
what that is for people who may
All
not
right.
be
So you come
familiar?
to our school. Your son wants to get started. He's going to take 2 introductory lessons. These are private lessons. And we have a couple of goals with those things. Number one, I have to teach him curriculum. I don't want to put him or her on the floor and not know anything, because that's going to create awkwardness and that's not a great first class. So I've got X amount of things I got to teach them. So when they get on the floor, they can just flow with everybody else and feel comfortable. But I also have to show the parent how my program actually does develop the things that they're asking me for. We all give them the sheet of paper. What would you like your son or daughter to get out of the program? And they put, oh yeah, I definitely want positive attitude. Oh yeah, I definitely want focus. Oh yeah, I do. And they say all these things. But what you have to do now is you have to connect the dots, just much like you said, feature versus benefits. I have to connect the dot. How does this feature, a bowing and horse stance, give you the benefit of respect and perseverance? So that's our goal in the intro. One, let's get the kid prepared for the floor. But two, let's show the parent how martial arts actually develops that stuff. So, for example, if I'm teaching a horse stance, I'll teach the horse stance because they're going to need to know it. I'll teach them how to do lunge punches, and then I'll sit them down. And I'll say, did your legs kind of burn a little bit? Start to get a little achy, and you were tempted to come out of it and just like, oh, let me get make it difficult, right? But that's what we call perseverance, is when you stick to things and they're difficult. It's like school. Not all schools, I hate to tell you, but not all school is going to be easy. There's going to be some tough things, but that's the importance of perseverance. We stick to it. We don't give up. We don't quit. We persevere. It'll come. We be patient with ourselves. Now that took me what, 10 seconds? And I go, okay, come on, let's get back up. Let's do some punching. And now the parent starts going, huh, he's using martial arts as these teachable moments to teach here's a coined phrase, life skills. And the parent goes, when I used to teach, and one thing I want to back up too is I don't teach at my schools anymore. So if someone's listening and goes, well, that's great, he can do that. These are all teachable skills, what we're sharing, because my staff now runs all the schools and they're still knocking it out of the park. These are teachable skills. But going back to the point, they now see that your school teaches life skills. And that's what they want. And I can't tell you how many times we'll have intros and the parent go, oh, I need to get my other son in here. Or I need to get my daughter in here. Because now they realize, before they came in thinking it's an activity, now they realize it's much more than an activity. There goes your retention. There goes your value. You can charge more money because it's worth more.
Mm.
All this stuff starts to take place.
And the other thing that was amazing, when we had a class this morning that you trained us in, and when you told us that you're doing over 100K a month consistently, and that's just that one location without all the bells and whistles that you might be able to add on to a school to increase revenue. But your attrition rate, I think, was at 2.5%. So you're
2.6%.
2.6%, like your quit
Yes.
rate. That is well below industry average. Industry
Correct.
average might be between, I don't know, 7 and 10% or something like that.
Yeah.
A good school is good between 3 and 4%. The fact that you can even have a school with so many students and so
Yeah.
many members and stay below 3% at 2.6 is remarkable. So how often are you training your staff members, or what are you doing in the training to bring that conviction to the students? That way the parents recognize the benefits of all the things that you're teaching them in a martial arts class.
You're good at this. You ask good questions.
Thanks.
Nick Kokinis, who started EFC, used to say, it's as simple as this: train, 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 nag, nag, nag. It really is. I find that school owners don't train their staff enough. I find that they train them sometimes and then they just set them free. How many times are you constantly telling your students to fix their horse stance? How many times are you constantly telling them to straighten out their shoulders, to keep their arm at this angle? Constantly. They're a brown belt and you're still telling it to them. They're a black belt and you're still, it's the same thing with staff. It's no different.
So how often are you doing your staff training?
We do staff training. It's a mandatory twice a week. That's not actually true. 3 times a week we do staff training. The reason why I said is I do a corporate staff training on Mondays. I meet with all my schools. Then they do an individual staff training on Tuesdays, and then we do another corporate one on Wednesdays. We start off with physical training. They train.
It's all in person, not on Zoom or anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. We start off. One of my mentors always said, "You first train with your staff. Keep martial arts, martial arts." So we train together for an hour, take a little bit of a break, and then we go into our staff meetings. And I will touch on. Usually, the first thing I do is I ask for successes. I want to hear. I first want to talk about the things that we want to be known for. So if we want to be known for being a black belt school, tell me some successes. Any kids who joined black belt training. What did you hear from the parents about kids acting and behaving like black belts? I do that because one, it starts the meeting off in a positive way, but two, it constantly reminds them this is what we're about. We're about training people how to be black belts. Then I'll go into whatever. If I saw stuff that needs to work teaching, if I saw stuff that needs to work the business systems, I'll do that. And then we usually take the message of the week that we're going to teach the students and we talk about it ourselves. Because as teachers, we should be leading by example. So are we applying this stuff to ourselves? It's interesting. You and I are both football fans. And I know New England's not doing well this year. But if you watch a football game, I'll tell you, I'm a New England fan for sure. I'm a huge Bill Belichick fan. And if you watch Bill Belichick, there's a couple of things that I got from football. If you watch Bill Belichick, or probably any coach, but I just noticed Bill does it all the time. And they always show the camera. You're always going to see him having a pad, and he has a pencil, and he's writing stuff down. He's writing down what he's going to address at halftime. He's writing down adjustments. A lot of owners don't do that. They train their staff, and they just cut them loose. So I know an owner who actually sews inside his gi a pocket where he puts a pad. Because at night, that's what he's doing. He's walking around, and it looks like he's saying hi to all the parents, but what he's doing is he's watching his floor. And as he sees things, he's writing them down. So I've done the same thing, modeling, and that's some of the stuff I'll address. I'll address that on Mondays. The other thing I notice is, again, being a football fan, I like watching Hard Knocks. And I notice what they do. They play a game, and then they go into training, and they bring the defensive line or offensive line, and they put on camera, here's the game. Now look what happened here. You got to cut the corner here. Because if you don't cut the corner here, he's going to push you in. He's going to collapse the corner, and they're going to stop our running game. And they're showing him live the mistakes he's doing. So I thought, what a brilliant idea. So I have cameras in all my schools. So when I see stuff, I actually write the date and time. So I can pull it up on camera and go, see this right here? Here. It's that professional. We want to execute on the floor.
It makes me so happy you're doing that because that's something I brought up on the podcast a
Oh,
bunch of
good.
times. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We call it game film review.
Yeah.
And like an athlete, if you want to be a professional athlete,
Yeah.
you watch game film. Tom Brady is known for watching 4 hours plus of game film every single day.
Right.
And as professional martial arts teachers, sometimes we don't want to hurt our egos by watching class and be like, oh, what? It couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
That was a great class.
Yeah.
But every single week, I'll get on a meeting one-on-one with each instructor, like the main people, right?
Yeah.
Not like assistants, but the main people. And we'll watch a class or we'll watch a lesson and we'll watch it together. And together we'll figure out what was really good and so you do more of that and what could be better.
Right.
And then we'll have a document associated with just that one instructor so they're not embarrassed from their peers or anything like that. And in that document, each week will be a date, it'll be a recording of the game film review that we did, and like we'll have like 3 takeaways. What are the takeaways that we got from watching this?
Right.
And then at the end will be one thing that they could work on for the following week. And then whatever they need to work on for the following week, I want to see on film the next week.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, okay, next week I want you to work on giving your assistant instructors feedback out loud of what you want them to do. So for instance, you might say, hey, Mr. James, I want you on line 1 and you're going to make sure that they're keeping their hands up and when they kick. And Miss Jessica, you're going to be in line 2, making sure they,
I love that.
do whatever. And then next week, I want to see that on film. And you know that I'm going to ask about it and we're going to pull up the film and I want to hear you say those words. So we're looking for one thing, like that 1% improvement idea. Like you always want to improve 1%. Yeah. And I know we talked about earlier, you and I.
If I could go back to what we talked about in the seminar today.
Yeah.
That's the attendance card.
Right.
So here's what I saw. I need you to clean the stance up. I'm going to look for it next month.
Right.
So you're doing to your staff it's
What
perfect.
we do
It's
with our students.
It's teaching them accountability.
Yeah.
First of all, actually, it's teaching them ownership. Ownership has to come before accountability. You're teaching them this is up to you to get it done, and then we're going to look to see you get it done.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And you can't possibly know what you taught or what happened. You know, a lot of times we'll see something where it's like this kid is messing up, twirling in circles,
Right.
and they're not getting corrected.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a
drives me
recording,
nuts.
and then it'll be interesting because then we can switch cameras to the parent area, and you'll see the mom like this.
Yeah, for sure.
And what are they thinking? Why am I paying for this?
That's right.
Right. And until we have that on camera, we don't really know. It's like you can't be a football player and not watch film. Right. You would never be any good at football.
Right.
So we have that on film. And the good thing is now I could take that. And all I do is record a Zoom session between me and the instructor. It's it. We bring it up I share my screen, have the video, we record it. And now that's instructor training for other people.
That's right.
That come on board. Hey, here's a playlist of like this topic. And it's like, okay, now you can go through it and watch. That way you don't make necessarily the same mistakes. Right. And the other thing you and I talked about, we talked about like school owners that are successful and school owners that aren't, which really could be translated to any type of business.
Sure.
And one of the things you brought up is people think they're working just because they're at their business, but they're not actually putting in the work.
Yeah.
And because we both love sports, the analogy that I like to use is like, okay, imagine if you're trying to make the Patriots team. Right. Or maybe you're trying to make a really good team like the Eagles. And
that's a good one.
And you're trying to make the team and you're showing them film of your work. And you're like, oh, look how I ran really fast down the field over here. And look how I ran around this guy. And look how I did this. Look how I did that. But unless you're putting stats up on the board, like tackles or sacks or, receptions or yards, you could be running around all you want, but you need stats to prove it, right? And that's why it's so important to know your KPIs, your key performance indicators for your business. So it's new students, quit students, attrition rate, which you knew right away. Right. We had your program director that was with us today, and we asked him how many students do you have. He wasn't like, about, which is probably what I would say. He knew, he knew 509. Exactly. Yeah. He knew right away. Right. So we need if we're working at our business, we're not just like there. You got to be putting up stats. You have to put stats on the board if you want to be any good.
One of my mentors, we shared this. He used to say, Master Silva used to say, a typical school owner gets to the school, unlocks the doors, turns on the lights, teaches the morning class, hangs out, kind of BSs with the students for a little bit, returns some phone calls, looks out, goes, oh man, it's lunch. Goes get lunch. Goes for an hour and a half, comes back, all right, I got to start getting ready for classes, and then teaches classes and then closes up and then says, I don't know why my school's not growing. Because like you said, you're not putting, one of my mentors used to say, where attention goes, energy flows, and then results will follow. You're not putting any energy into the key business drivers. You're teaching classes is delivering on your promise, and you do it well, it will kick in referrals. But you still got to put time into your marketing. You still got to put time into calling your leads. You have to put time into all those places.
And you have to be self-critical. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like you talked about the importance of word of mouth. I don't think we get word of mouth as much as I'd like to.
Right.
And it like hurts. That means our product is not good enough. Right. And it hurts to say that out loud, but it's true. Yeah. Right. Like I want the product to be so good that everyone's telling everyone about it. Yeah. And like I don't have to do Facebook ads, or I don't have to do outside events or birthday parties. Like you still want to do that stuff. It's important. Right. But if you're not getting a large portion of your business from people who are raving fans, then you need to improve the product, right? That's the evidence. You don't need someone, you can't just be like, oh, well, I know martial arts and I think my classes are fun and kids like it. Well, if you're not getting referrals constantly, then it can't be that good.
You mentioned I was a fighter and I was on Paul Mitchell. I've been doing this long enough that I was with all the old school guys, the Billy Blanks and the Anthony Price, and the list goes on and on. And those were some of my biggest mentors fighting. Learned so much from them and watching them fight. I never met a fighter that wasn't like, listen, I don't need to know what I'm doing well. Tell me what I need to get. Like they wanted to know, how do I get better? How do I get better? What do I need to do? They already have confidence. They already have a high self-esteem. So they don't have to have their ego massaged. Just give it to me. Mm-hmm. That's the self-critical part. Like, just tell me, what do I need to do to get better? How do I need this to go to school? Those people, I think society is hurting us because we're so conscious of looking good and trying to perceive us as whatever, because of Facebook, and that's what society is dictating now. So everyone's kind of caught in that that routine, the people I know that are successful, none of them really thought like that.
Mm,
They were just like, just tell me what I need to do.
mm.
Like, you don't have to, I'm confident enough, as you know, when
Yeah.
we're talking in the car, it's like, I know it's a brilliant idea. um, but I need to get better. So just tell me what I need to do and so I can get it done.
Mm.
I think if it's a good point, being more self-critical.
Yeah, and I think as an athlete, you have a different type of mindset. One of the guests I had on here previously, she works with a couple professional athletes, and one of the things that she said is so remarkable is how they truly believe that anything is possible and anything they do is going to work out
Oh yeah.
because they've reached such levels of success.
Yeah.
Like she works with one of the best. She works with Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey.
Oh,
Okay,
nice. Who are they again?
so what'd you
Just
say?
kidding. Who are they again?
Yeah, who are they?
I know who
Uh,
Taylor Swift is, but I'm not sure who the other guy is.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's like Taylor Swift's boyfriend or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so
Forever labeled Taylor Swift's boyfriend. That's
yeah, and
awesome.
one of the things she said is like when she sits down and talks to them, and she does like graphic design for them and
Yeah,
branding and a lot
yeah,
of things. So is that someone will say to them, "Hey, we expect to get this done at this time." In this amount of time, and they're like, all right, well, we need it done in this time, like half the amount of time or a quarter.
yeah,
And she'll be like, oh, well, that's not usually how we do it. And I'm like, well, we can do it that if we put our minds to it. And she's like,
yeah,
okay. And they just truly believe it. Like anything
yeah.
is possible. And
Sure.
I mean, they've blown up their exposure. They are the number one sports podcast in the country in like less than 2 years. And like,
Wow.
you know, are everywhere now. And you're dating Taylor Swift is probably the most
Yeah,
incredible accomplishment of all that.
yeah.
Right. So like, athletes, I think, have a certain mindset, and then you had that kind of mindset when you were 20 years old that, hey, yeah, I'm a competitor, but I don't know if I can be a business owner, but you know, I know it'll work out.
I
I know
think
I'll be
I
okay.
think you because you're in a sport of win and losses. When you lose, you're quicker to just brush it off. Like think of Michael Jordan. I don't know what the stat is. I've read it before. I've used it in some of my staff meetings, but percentage wise, he would miss like so many. But when he was interviewed in his book that he wrote many years ago, he said every time I shot, I saw nothing but net. Now the fact is he didn't get it in every time, but in his mind, they always see themselves as winning. They always see like this is what's going to happen. Even when it doesn't, they just blow it off.
Mhm.
If you watch a professional athlete, a football player, and he messes up, what does he do? He usually claps his hands like, he'll do like this, like, and because he knows that's not the way what I'm capable of doing.
Mm.
So that in itself is indicative of how this person's self-esteem and confidence is so high. That doesn't like that's a rarity. I don't mess up.
Mm.
And he gets right back to it. So
Mm.
I think that is important.
Mm. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up, because you mentioned that both your daughters are involved in martial arts with you,
Yes.
is how do we get more females in martial arts, particularly in leadership positions within the martial arts?
I think that it's getting easier because you have so many now that are in that kind of position. I should say we have more now than we did. But especially with Krav Maga, it's it's a little difficult because my daughters are older, 35 and 31. So, I taught them. I said, listen, if you're going to teach Krav Maga, every student in that class has to feel like you can kick their ass. That's just how they have to feel because that's how it's a physical thing. They're portraying respect out of that. So you have to be over the top good. Your striking has to be good. Your aggression has to be good. You can teach with personality and friendliness, but when it comes time to the law of the lid, John Maxwell, people will follow you as long as they realize you're higher than they are. So I think that's in that aspect of teaching that type of martial art or self-defense system, I think that's one of the things you have to consider. That's what they're up against. Is it fair? Not at all. But it is what it is. It's the part of not the demographic, but I should say the environment we're working with.
Mm.
I think with kids, that the same thing. We have teenage girls that are teaching. I find that me personally, I find it's easier to teach teenage girls how to teach than it is to teach teenage boys because these girls already come with a natural, for lack of a better word, aggression. A drive would be better. A natural drive. Like they want to prove themselves. And I think that when they get really good at teaching, the boys are like, "Wow, she's awesome." You know what I mean? She's so strong, she's so this, she's so that, and the girls look at it as inspiration.
Mm.
Like, that's what I wanna be. So I think it's actually kinda cool to get some of these teenage girls and put them in leadership. I have, 4 teenage girls that could probably run my school. They kill it, and they're so good. And we don't have, obviously, any retention issues with boys going, "I don't wanna train with them," because they have such a presence about them,
Mm.
such strength when they teach.
Mm. So getting more women in leadership positions, it would be the best way to do that is to put more women in leadership positions so other
Yeah,
people see them as a role model
yeah,
and they want to do that. And especially in such a male dominated sport, I think
right.
the UFC might have helped with this too because they've really promoted
Sure,
female fighters and they've
sure.
been really, really good at that.
Yeah,
Uh, and that never was the case ever. And when you came up martial arts, there was not many females
no.
around, very,
Yeah,
very
no.
few. And like our schools, like we very much take pride in having lots of female students and
Right.
lots of female teachers. And when I had at one point to hire a female teacher, I wanted to hire one like it's someone who wasn't part of our schools. I would say out of like 90 something applicants, maybe two were female.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And neither one was really qualified. I mean,
yeah,
most of the guys were not qualified either, right? Like 97 of them were not qualified. But it was so difficult. And like and I know that when I have a female teacher and a female student is going to look up to that person, that girl, in a different way than they look up to me or you,
right,
right? Like
right.
they don't see themselves. 9-year-old girl doesn't see me and go, I want to be like Mr. Brenner. I want to be like Matt. No. But if they see Miss Sarah
Right.
or whoever or Miss
Yeah.
Jackie, they're like, oh, I want to be like her.
Right.
Right. And I think it's so important in this industry if we want to keep on moving forward and
Yeah.
advancing, we get more women in those positions.
Yeah. I think teens in general is such a good asset to have in a school for a number of reasons. You get parents that are coming to you and saying, "Well, I want my kid to have more confidence." Oh, that's interesting. Let me introduce you to Matt here. Matt started when he was 7, and that's what your kid's going to be like in 4 years or 5
Mm,
years. And he's out there at 15 years old rocking the class.
mm,
Now you're showing that your product actually does work. I think that, Master Sylvia used to say this all the time. When I go out there and teach kids class, they're being taught by dad. But when my teen goes out there and teaches the kids class, they're being taught by the older brother they always wanted to be like.
mm,
So the teens have massive influence over these kids. I think it's a valuable asset. As
mm.
long as you can get some really good teens that can teach and can rock a floor and can be a good example, and they get what martial arts is all about, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Mm. So, how many hours a week now are you spending at the school versus doing other things or your schools?
Um, I am there all day Mondays, and then I will float around to the different schools and watch classes. We have a general manager, so he's more or less doing that now. But I still get plugged in at the schools and go to the different schools and just watch classes and mostly try to spend time with the school directors, keep the connection, keep my ear to the heartbeat of what they need. That pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you're not there all day every day, but a couple days a week, but you're always on the pulse of what's happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, do you think the popularity of martial arts is growing or shrinking?
Do I think that's a good question? Do I think the things that we teach are always going to be needed. I think, in fact, they're getting more needed now. We talked about this today in the instructor college. You go back to Zig Ziglar. What is it? 20 inputs into a child mind, 18 a negative. I think that's happening more. I think kids have more negative influence in their life between TV and movies and music.
Social media.
I mean, hey, social media. I mean, have you heard some of this music? Have you heard what children are being influenced to think about women? Talking about women, the music itself is teaching boys to look at women in ways that is disrespectful. So you have all these forces. How much time does a child spend with their parent actually engage in active conversation versus all this input? I mean, it's almost like a no win situation.
Mm,
I think as long as we are out there teaching this stuff, we're always going to be in business.
mm.
I don't even think the economy will affect it.
You think we're economy proof?
I really do because of what we teach. What we teach. A number of years ago, pre-COVID, our economy took a dip, and I literally saw trade magazines and martial arts. Oh, all these schools are going out of business. We opened 2 schools that year because what we have is needed. And I'll tell you who gave me a lot of confidence. Go back to my original instructor. They were open during the 70s when there was a massive economy crash with the housing market and stuff. And his wife is the one that actually told me that. She said, it's an interesting thing. Whenever the economy was down, our school did better. And I was like, why is that? And she said, people want to feel good. People want to feel good. They want to do something. There's a lot of stress out there, especially now. You got diseases and war. There's a lot of stress out there. And adults are completely overwhelmed and exhausted from just the weightiness of life. They need an escape. And if you run an adult program, that's something you want to consider.
Mm.
You want to consider not putting more demands on your adults. That's the
Mm.
last thing they need.
So what do you hate most about our industry? Like, what's one thing that you're like, I wish I could change this about it?
Wow, you asked some really good. The ego. Well, let me think about it. The ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
think
I
the
mean,
ego is too big in our industry?
it's just natural. It's just that I mean, we could probably spend whatever the next hour. It's just so rampant in our industry. I don't like it when organizations criticize each other. I don't like it when styles criticize each other. I mean, we teach Krav Maga and we'll post videos, and then you'll get jiu-jitsu guys criticizing Krav Maga, and then you get Krav Maga. Listen, it's all good. I go to a place that I love. I like ice cream, and they got 32 flavors.
You talking about Baskin Robbins?
No.
Oh, is
Why
that
they
their
have
slogan?
32 flavors?
I don't know. They have something like,
Oh,
we have
all
blah,
right.
blah, blah flavors. So I thought it was
And
commercial for Baskin Robbins.
one day I'm in line and I'm like, why is there 32 flavors? I mean, who eats butternut ice cream? Or what is it? Not butternut. Butterscotch.
Butterscotch.
I'm like, who eats that? Somebody does. So what am I going to do? Go, you eat butterscotch ice? I eat maple walnut. Who eats butterscotch? You got to be like, really?
Maple walnut is weirder than butterscotch. So
I'm from New England, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
In fact, when I first moved to Florida, they didn't have it. I'm like, how can you not have it? Anyways.
Yeah.
Listen, if you like butterscotch, have at it. Good for you. I'm going to eat my maple walnut. But we have to validate ourselves by tearing someone else down. That's got to stop, really. I mean, honestly, you want to do jiu-jitsu, go for it. I hope you're awesome at it. I hope you love it, and I hope the school's good. I'm going to do my thing. You know what I mean? And if we could just get rid of that stuff, if we could get rid of constantly having to validate ourselves by proving that we're better than somebody else and be more humble and have a little bit more humility, and I think that our industry would learn a lot from each other.
And I think there's room for everybody at the table, right? Like there's
You're a human
different
being. That's another thing. Can we stop putting things in front of people? That's
do you mean?
unbelievable, right?
What are you talking about?
Someone hits your car. You get out and take a bat. You see it on news all the time. So let me get this straight. Your medal is more important than a human being. There's something wrong when we start getting there. You know what I mean? So like you said, it's all room at the table. So you're going to criticize me. You're going to say bad things about me because of your art? Is it really that important? It's more important than a human being.
Right.
Okay. All right. If that's not indicative that there's something wrong, like with our thinking, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, you're right. I think that is sad. What do you think your 13-year-old self would think about you now?
My 13-year-old self, he'd be happy I'm still with my wife.
Okay.
Because he was infatuated.
How many years is that now?
He was infatuated with her. 36.
36. Wow. Wait, you were infatuated with your wife at 13 and then married her at 19.
I grew up on the water. So, we were like a boating community. My wife grew up on a farm. And I still remember the first time I saw my wife riding a horse. I was like, who is this girl?
You're like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. And then watching her just like lift bales of hay and 55-pound bags of grain. I was like, she's just strong woman.
Yeah.
And I was mad attracted to that. And I still am.
That's a beautiful thing that you
Yeah.
shared that. That's amazing. I love that. Does she still lift bales of hay or is that
No. So we have Great Danes now. So that she doesn't have horses anymore, but she just has dogs that are like horses.
It's like you're training your daughter. So here's how you attract a man.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Go lift some hills.
They're her. They're her. They have her strength for sure.
Have you ever like almost quit? Is there a time where you're like,
God, yeah.
forget all this?
When I was a kid, I wanted to quit all the time, but growing up with a military dad, my mom would literally say this, that's fine, talk to your father about it.
And you're just like, oh shit, I'm not doing that.
I could push mom like, I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not going anywhere with my dad. It's not.
No?
There's no quit in his game.
He's just like, you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. How do you keep your business relationships healthy, like between you and your other instructors?
I think one of the most important lessons I learned is the importance to keep in connection with them.
How do you do that?
Spending time, spending time. I'm making an effort to go to all the schools, and the day is theirs. The day I'll be there at night to watch classes, but during the day, we usually do goals and review meetings. What do you want to talk about? You would be surprised how they equate that to just he cares. He cares about me. I do care about them, but unless I'm able to physically spend time with them, their things may get in their head. So I can't explain it any more than that. Just the little fact of being there and spending time with them and showing them, what do you need? What can I mean, we do all the business stuff. I will do goals and review meetings. I'll talk to them about their stats. I'll ask them. I'm not a dictator type boss. I don't want to be a dictator type boss. I'm a collaborator. I want you to want to work with me to get this stuff done. I want you willingly. So I never go in there and tell people what to do. One of my mentors used always to say, adults don't want to be told, but they don't mind being reminded. And I think that's so true. Nobody really wants to, don't, I mean, I'll do it because you're my boss, but I'd rather have a conversation where you involve me in the conversation. Like if we were just doing right now and your stats were off, I would literally just be like, all right, let's talk about, give me your thoughts on this. The adult first to new is off. Tell me, what are you thinking? You're here in the grassroots. What are you thinking? And I'll just let you talk versus coming in and just say, they're off and think I know the answer. I know that your stats are off, but I may not know why. Give me your perspective so that they know I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Not here to judge. I'm not, that's just my style. I'm not, I know some other organizations out there, they are dictators. That's just not my style.
So you prefer a more open conversational approach?
I love having a conversation. I learned so much from them by having that conversation.
Very cool.
And I think one other thing, I went to a seminar one time. This guy Nick Peterman, which I absolutely love. You should have him on your podcast. He's brilliant. He said he pulled up a stat one time. I forgot where he got the stat from, but it was like companies that had the highest performing employee retention, and it was 60 per. It was more than that. He'll tell you. I think it was 70% of all their interaction with their employees was on appreciation and highlighting what they were doing well. 15% was on coaching and 10% was on correcting, something like that. So that goes to tell you that they're out there and they're just showing appreciation. Like, man, you're doing a good job. I like the effort you're putting in here. They're still coaching, they're still correcting, but they were overwhelmed with the positive.
I think that's important because when things aren't going well, it's easy to just point out all the negative things. I get guilty of that too, right? Like I'm definitely guilty. Like right now, as you're saying that, I'm like, damn, I should probably send some text messages after this. So I think people know I come out of love, like even when I'm correcting them or helping them, but still,
I wasn't always like this. I learned to be like this.
Used to be an asshole.
I used to be the dictator.
I'm just kidding.
I used to be the dictator.
Okay.
I used to be the dictator for sure.
What changed or how did it change?
Believe it or not, running Bible studies. My pastor taught me how to run Bible studies, and he said it's way more productive when it's conversational. You're here for them. So it's not about you talking, it's about what they're getting out of it. And that just kind of carried over to work, and lo and behold, it works.
So tell me a story or something that's happened to you in the martial arts career, because obviously you've dealt with kids a lot and you've been in martial arts for many years. Tell me something that's like a story you tell around a campfire or at Christmas time. It could be something crazy that's happened or
Gosh,
something.
there's probably so many of them, but on the spot, a story not about martial arts, or
it could be about martial arts, about running the business. This person said this,
about,
this person said that. Yeah.
Oh, there's got to be a good one. This is a tough one. I'm trying to think of like a cool story. My wife.
Like that one time you did a podcast, that really good looking guy in
that. Come on, there's got to be a good one. I'm trying to think. I got a cool one.
Yeah.
This is probably one of, when I was a fighter, I just idolized Billy Blanks. I'm in Rhode Island. He's in Quincy, Mass. I used to watch him fight. I used to have pictures of him in my locker at the dojo. I used to try to model my style of fighting after him. And one day I'm at home. I'm probably about 17, 18, and I had fallen asleep on the couch, like just taking a nap, and my mom wakes me up, and she says, Paul, this Billy Blanks is on the phone for you. And I got mad at her because I thought she was pulling my leg, like teasing me. Like, that's not
Yeah.
even funny.
Yeah.
So she goes, I'm serious. There's a man, Billy Blanks, on the phone. I'm like, that's impossible. How would he, he doesn't know who I am. Like, he did because I was a high rated fighter in New England. But how would he get my phone number? So I get on it, and Billy had a very distinctive voice. So I get on, and they used to call me Stingo. That was my fighting name. And literally, I get on, and he just had that Stingo. This is Billy Blanks. And it was just like, are you kidding me? It'd be like you're a rock star calling you at home. Like,
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like that. And he ended up calling Don Rodriguez, my coach, got my home phone number, called me at my house to invite me to his school to take part in their fight class because he wanted me up there training. And that was just like, wow, you know? So yeah, there's a story.
That's super cool. So you met him in person eventually?
Oh, well, we used to compete. We actually did compete together one time. But we always competed on the same circuit. So I was always around him, always asking him questions, always watching him fight. He was a big idol of mine.
All right, one last question. Complete this answer. Or one last question. Complete this statement. I feel most alive when.
When I'm where I'm supposed to be. When I'm, we talked about this before, my beliefs and stuff. When I am probably in my morning time, my morning Bible study, reading, studying, listening to God's word, hearing his plan for humanity. Love that.
What does your morning routine look like?
Up early. I like to get up really early when it's quiet.
What time?
When none of the dogs are up.
Okay. Not even the dogs are up.
Not even the dogs are up. Usually 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'll get up. I'll read for a good hour and a half, and just meditate. Just not meditate, but just read and study, and it's just awesome. It's filling.
You like reading the Bible, or you're reading like self-help books?
No, reading the Bible.
Okay. Do you just pick a random passage, or do you just pick up where you left
Right now,
off?
I'm in the book of Ephesians. I'm studying the book of Ephesians, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. I have study books that I follow. So, you're reading all this commentary, and you're just really getting, it's good stuff. I'm not here to preach, but it's just good stuff. Once you understand what God's plan is for humanity, it's a beautiful thing. Just not enough people know about it.
How do you feel about humanity now, like where we're going?
I think God loves them, and I think God wants more for them in a good way. He doesn't want anything from them. That's the problem that people, he wants to do something for you. He wants to give you things that I think we have been duped into thinking that we can get these blessings without him. You can't. True peace, true joy, true love, true patience. It's only through him.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for being here on here today. If someone wants to find you, how can they connect with you?
They can call you.
Don't call me. Unless you're Billy Blanks, hit me up.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be awesome if Billy was listening to this, because I don't know if he knows that impact he had on me. But anyways.
We'll send it to him.
Yeah, Facebook, you can hit me up. My email is Garcia.
What's your name on Facebook?
Paul Garcia. I should have said Batman.
Yeah.
Batman.
They'll find you. But...
yeah. My email, garcia.abd. 0299 @gmail. Yeah, more than happy to help.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Matthew Brenner. You can find me on Instagram @BlackBeltBrenner1. Or if you're interested in consulting or coaching, you want to know how to grow your martial arts school by setting up partnerships with schools, daycares, or businesses, so you can have an organic way to grow your school, and you can do every single year on repeat, and you don't have to rely on Facebook ads, your website, and it can actually go out and reach new members and bring them into you. Email me, matthew@wyourdojo.com. We'll have a call. We'll see if it's a good fit for you. If it is, great. If not, that's cool too. But at least we'll figure that out together. So thank you so much. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.